Welcome back to our Cryengine tutorial video set. In this video, I'm going to talk about the basics of track view. Track view can be found by going to View at the top of your Crysis window and open View pane, and underneath here you will find track view. I'm going to open up this bar along the bottom of your screen, and you'll notice along the top that you have buttons like play and stop and pause and record. And over here on the left in this bar is where our sequences will be. And you can see at the top, we can add sequences, delete them, edit them. And then in the middle, you have this timeline. And this is best to think of this as a timeline of events that will happen. And you can place events in here and, decide exactly what time you want them to go. And when you click play, these things will happen. When you're filming a scene, these things will happen as time goes by. So I'm going to go ahead over here and add a sequence. And it'll ask you to name your sequence, so I will. And so now we have a sequence. Not really anything exciting, but if I right-click on this sequence over here, you can see I get a whole mess of options. And so one of the options that we have is add selected entities. So right now I have an entity placed on the screen, this armored car here, and I have it selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click add selected entities. And this works with any entity. There's some regular objects that can't be added to track view. But for the most part, anything found under entity or miscellaneous, anything like cameras and things can all be added here, and they all have lots of options. So I'm going to go ahead and explain the entity options that you have in track view. So you can see it's created these different categories for me. I have my armored car bar, I have my position bar, I have my rotation bar, and I have my event bar. So this position bar is where the car is going to be positioned over time on this track view. And the rotation bar is how much the car will be rotated over time. And then the event is what events will happen for that car. So, if I created an event or a flow graph or something where, the car was supposed to start driving or something like this, I could place that in the event bar. So you'll notice that position and rotation both have little plus signs next to them. If I open up position, you can see that I can individually edit its X, Y, and Z position. As well as rotation, I can individually edit its X, Y, and Z rotation. So one important note when dealing with position and rotation is that if I have this record button selected up here, it is going to record whatever I do in the viewport with that entity. So if I place my timer mark at 1 second, and I have record selected, and I move this truck somewhere, you can immediately see that it's created a node inside of my track view detailing where that car is at that time. And this will only happen if this record button is selected. Likewise, I could say, okay, at 5 seconds, I would like my car to be at this position. And you can see, because my record button is selected, it has given us another node at 5 seconds. So now, between 1 and 5 seconds, this is where this car will be. And when I select different times on my timeline, you can see the car has moved. If I select 3 seconds right in between, you can see the car is right in between. So these are things that will happen when I tell the scene to play. When I tell the scene to play, you can see that the car moves. You can see how this could easily be used to set up a scene. The next thing worth noting is that you can manually add your own nodes in here. So let's say between 1 and 5 seconds, I wanted my car to be somewhere else, and I didn't want to select it in the viewport. I can manually double-click here and add a new node. Now, when you add a node manually, you're going to want to break it open into X, Y, and Z so you can change the X, Y, and Z values individually. And you can do that by right-clicking on it, clicking Edit on Spot, and just changing that value in there. So if you have a very custom position that you want something to be at, it's easy enough to manually add that as a node. And now you can see, because I have that node in the middle, when I tell my car to move, it moves up to that location and then moves back down. And obviously for a car, that's not a very intuitive location at all. It works the same with rotation. You can very easily add nodes, and it works the same with events. Well, that's a decent introduction to the track view. We will talk a lot more about it in future videos. So with that, I'll close.